Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Jamie Fristrom. I've been making video games for a very long time. I got my start making role-playing games for DOS, and then was the second employee at Treyarch, where I worked on Die by the Sword, some Tony Hawk ports, and my magnum opus was probably Spider-Man 2, where I was a technical director and designer. I invented its swinging locomotion that a lot of people liked. And after that, I went indie, and I've been getting beat up ever since. I made a game for Xbox Live Arcade called Schizoid, made one called 60-Second Shooter, and now I'm back on the swinging mechanic stuff, making a game kind of like Spider-Man called Energy Hook. Started using Unity a couple years back. Was using it to teach a class and for some game jams. Kind of fell in love with it, and that's when I realized, hey, I could do a game kind of like Spider-Man with this. And so I've been working on that ever since. And I'm not an artist. So when I first started prototyping the swing system for Energy Hook, it looked like that. And I wanted to bring it to Kickstarter. And I was tempted to do it just with this sketchy prototype. And everybody said, no, 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 if you want to do a real Kickstarter, you got to have something better looking. No artists wanted to work with me for free at that point. So I turned to Google Warehouse. And with Google Warehouse, was able to put this together. Almost every asset in this scene is from Trimble Warehouse. It's called Trimble Warehouse now, but I can't stop thinking of it as Google Warehouse. So I'm going to keep calling it Google Warehouse. I don't work for Google. I don't work for Trimble, so I can be What? You do? Oh, awesome. Thank you. You're a big help. But I can be completely honest about my experience with it. Trimble Warehouse is built into SketchUp. I'm a big fan of SketchUp. It's free, and it's almost like it's psychic. Like when I use Blender, I can never remember how to do anything. Like I do it, and then later I need to do it again, and I'm like, how did I do that again? But SketchUp is almost psychic in the way you move your mouse, and it does kind of what you expect to do. It's really ideal for modeling architectural stuff, anything kind of blocky. And getting stuff from SketchUp into Unity, it's not like FBXs where you can kind of go back and forth easily. You do have to export it as a DAE, and you can do that directly from within SketchUp, which is easier because you don't have to download a plugin or get a plugin set up. But that is less good at combining your submeshes into a fewer number of draw calls. The other alternative is to use a plugin called PlayUp Tools, which is sort of in development. And that does a better job of combining meshes, but it also sometimes messes up the textures. So if you want to be perfectly optimal, you'd use PlayUp Tools, bring things into Unity, check them out. If the textures got messed up, switch to the internal SketchUp exporter. But I actually tend to use just the internal SketchUp exporter for almost everything, and then rely on Unity's static batching to make things run fast. Now, here we have an empty platform, and I'm going to invite you to tell me what game asset you want on it. Is somebody with a game, you need a game asset, you're about to ask an artist to model it, what would you ask him to model? A sofa. Sofa wins, so quickest wins. So I'm going to go over to Unity now, or actually I'm going to go over to SketchUp now. I have yet to find a static, sort of non-animating, non-moving object that I couldn't find in the 3D warehouse. So here's the 3D warehouse right off the root of the file menu. get models. We're about to see how good my internet connection is. It's okay so far. Sofa. So it's showing us 1 to 12 of many. There's all kinds of sofas already in SketchUp, and my game's sort of kind of low poly. It's not, you can't. This is not a solution for AAA. This is a solution for if your game looks sort of stylized, or if you're or sort of lower poly than what you might see on consoles these days. But I will generally have an idea what I'm looking for. I'll go through SketchUp. I'll go through the Trimble warehouse. I'll check things out. I'll find one that looks like it might be sort of a reasonable fit for what I'm looking for, and then I'll download it. You'll want to put it as close to the origin of Unity as you can. So when you bring it into Unity, it'll be a game object that you can manipulate easily. This one has come in sort of, it's below the floor. You want to get it above the floor. And let's see. How's that? Well, so if I was doing this at home, I would take the extra minute to make sure it was perfect. But since I'm just demoing it, when I get through this quick, I will export it now. And then I'll save it as both a SketchUp file to keep around in case I want to make future edits to it. I'll often make a new folder just for that asset. I'll have a models directory and then a subdirectory of that, which will have my individual assets. For now, let's just say sofa. And then I'll also export it as a DAE. So now we can go on over to Unity. It'll bring in the sofa, because Unity's awesome like that. And somebody mentioned, in the previous talk, somebody mentioned scale. I generally find, this may turn out to be an exception, that sofa looked a little small. I generally find that people are pretty good about modeling with a consistent scale in Trimble Warehouse, and that usually a scale of 0.02 is a good conversion factor to bring it into Unity and have a scale where 1 unit equals 1 meter. Other settings, I usually find myself turning on generate colliders. Usually want them to be environment objects, and generate light map UVs. And I'll talk about material search in just a bit. Let's first just get this sofa in and try to see it working. Yes, I forgot to click the apply button. OK, so it's re-imported our sofa with my settings. In my scene, got this. Where's my display platform? That's what I called it. Bring my sofa over there. Now it's because I didn't set the pivot quite right in SketchUp before I exported. The pivot's off a little here, and the sofa, I think, is sunk a little into the floor. So I'll bring it up there. Elliot mentioned Elliot mentioned prefabs. Anybody here not use prefabs? Good, everybody uses prefabs. So yeah, normally I would make a prefab out of this too. I would create a dummy empty game object, make the sofa a child of that game object, and then if I needed to import a different sofa or change the sofa sort of dramatically where it ended up with a different number of meshes, I'd be able to sort of swap it into the prefab and have it affect every instance of the sofa in the level. And so right away, we can see that this sofa has a lot of submeshes. And in our perfect world, if we were modeling this ourselves, we'd probably be able to get it down to just 1 or 2 meshes. And each mesh, if you're using just Unity Basic, is gonna be a whole separate draw call. So it wouldn't be useful at all for mobile and can tend to make things go pretty slow with even with Pro, even on a PC. Let's rerun that presentation with the sofa in it. All right, maximize this. There we go. How many other people do their slideshows in Unity? And there it is. There's our new game-ready asset, done within just a few minutes. So let's continue. So I mentioned all my favorite import settings. The light map UVs are if you want to bake in your light maps if you're not using the dynamic shadows. And then let's talk about those material import settings. I've been sort of wrestling with the ideal solution for the import settings. When it brings materials in from your SketchUp model, Unity will create some material names. And first, depending on how you have it set up, let's unmaximize here. Depending on how you have it set up, over here, the import materials, material naming, material search. If you have it set on recursive up, it's going to search through the project from where you put the asset, looking for materials with the same name, and it's going to use those instead of the ones you exported, because and that's great for static batching, because if it's using the same material, it can combine those meshes into one draw call. But if, and this happens a fair bit with SketchUp, if that material was being, if that material was being, of that name was being used by another mesh or another model, your sofa will take that mesh, or take that material, and it'll look wrong. So what I've been doing usually, particularly when I pull stuff out of the Trimble warehouse and don't want to rename it, is been doing local materials folder and often putting each thing I bring in its own materials folder. If I've got some set of assets that work together, then I still use local materials folder. I just put all those DAEs into the same folder at the same level. Back to the show. So, like I said, this is a good tool for prototyping. This is a good tool for indie game developers like myself who are developing for Windows and Mac and maybe console, but not so much mobile. But even if we're developing for a fairly fast target and we're okay with being sloppy and having scenes that don't run as fast as they look like they should run, the performance still won't be great unless we do a couple more things. And one of those things would be using Unity Pro and static batching. And setting the static batching is fairly straightforward. We mentioned Elliot mentioned how you need to make things static to get the shadow maps to work. You also have to make things static to make the static batching work. So if you wouldn't be able to really see. Let's see if I can turn the stats on in this scene. Let's see. Let me shoot back here. So right now we're looking at 140 some draw calls. How many of those is the sofa? Let's make a duplicate of it and see. So it's about 60 draw calls just for that sofa. And I'm going to lose all that work just because I'm in play mode right now here. So let's exit out. See if I can paste those assets back in. Can I? Cool. And we'll turn on static for all these guys. Yes, change children. Play it again. Oops, missed it. And we can see here, if you look, you see the draw calls and the save by batching, 162. I actually usually see, I've usually been seeing better results than that with my homework, like with the work I've been doing at home. I've been seeing basically the draw calls getting cut in half by the static batching. The other trick you can do, and this might actually be okay with mobile, and if you're willing to put in the extra work per asset, is there are tools that can combine your submeshes. There's MeshBaker, which works within Unity. I haven't tried it myself. And then you can bring your SketchUp models into, say, Blender or another program and combine the draw calls there. If you're already an artist, you probably can model an asset or a sofa faster than it might take you to bring it out of SketchUp and do that stuff, though. This is really for us non-artist types. I missed, let's see, there was one thing I wanted to talk about that I didn't make a slide for, and that is, how am I doing at time, by the way? Anybody know how? I got 10 minutes left? Cool. Often the textures that you get out of a Trimble warehouse, particularly with buildings, often the textures are really bad, or they're either have a really low texel density, or like the buildings typically use a satellite photo that's been mapped onto the building, and so they've already got shadows baked in and stuff. So I very often find myself going in and cleaning up textures. This sofa, does this sofa have any textures? You go to colors in model to see what textures are on your thing, and no, not really, just default colors. Let me pull in one of my assets. Not mine. This is another asset I got. This is another asset I got off of Trimble warehouse not long ago. So you can. So I thought this rooftop texture looked kind of low in its texel density for my game, and you can edit textures simply by going to texture, edit texture image, and then it'll open up your texture program, and I use GIMP because I'm really cheap, and then you can clean stuff up in here. Like one thing I've been doing a lot is just because I'm not an artist, is putting like an artistic oilify filter on my rooftop textures to sort of give parts of my game a sort of painted look, and you overwrite the temporary JPEG that SketchUp makes. And then it is saved into your SketchUp model. Then you re-export that. I don't even have that building in Unity right now. But you get the idea. And then you bring that into Unity, and instead of having the sort of the manky texture that you got out of Trimble Warehouse, you've got something that looks like you gave a little bit of love to. And that really is all I wanted to share with you. So we could turn it over to questions now, if anybody has any.
Not so much a question, more a note. There is a plugin for SketchUp called LightUp that does a lighting solution for you, and also has a built-in FBX importer. It's really good. It does a great job of exporting straight to FBX, bringing it to Unity, no problem at all.
So in case you didn't hear, because he's not on a microphone, he's suggesting LightUp is a pretty awesome way of not only exporting FBXs, but it also will do Nice. Okay. It also generates light maps. So I will check that out. That sounds pretty awesome. Why don't you hit one of the microphones so everybody can hear?
Have you tried polygon reducers with SketchUp?
No, I have not. What's that?
Like it reduces the amount of polygons.
Oh no, I haven't tried that. That sounds awesome because one thing. Although I'm typically worried about draw calls, like triangle budgets have not been a problem for me on my game. When you do bring in a curvy thing in SketchUp, it does tend to throw a lot of polys at it. So a polygon reducing program would be good for cases like that.
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering, I know it sort of goes against the theory of free tools, but have you tried SketchUp Pro, and does the FBX exporter in that actually improve the performance in Unity? Does it make any difference?
I have not tried SketchUp Pro, so I don't know. Has anybody else tried SketchUp Pro? And yeah. Okay.
I was just wondering if there was a way to take a section of a texture map and tile it.
So that is something, and I'm not sure you can do a section, actually. You can do a whole texture and tile that easily. I don't believe, at least I don't know how. I don't believe you can take just a portion of a texture map and tile that without cutting it out and making a whole separate texture yourself manually.
Thanks. Hi. Sorry if you mentioned this, it came in a little bit late, but I was just curious, what's the license for these assets that you're importing?
Oh, good question. I totally meant to talk about that and totally forgot about it. Thank you. This building you're looking at here is a real building somewhere. Although the person who modeled this building and made it available on Google Warehouse or Trimble Warehouse is making it available for you to work with, you don't know if he or she has the legal rights to use that image. Somebody could very easily model an X-Wing fighter, put it in Trimble Warehouse for you to use free, and then you'd still be violating copyright if you put it in your game. So that is kind of a sketchy area, and particularly with buildings, courts go back and forth on whether you can use a building's image, what constitutes fair use. My game, I'll be lucky if my game sells a few thousand copies, so I'm not too worried about somebody coming after me and saying, hey, you used our building without permission. I also tend to take the stuff I grab from Trimble Warehouse and stretch it and squash it and change it in various ways. But for people making larger projects that are more noticeable, it could definitely be an issue, and you do kind of have to be careful.
So besides the kind of like the third-party stuff, so when people upload to Trimble Warehouse, do they have like a Commons type of license, or is it like public domain?
My understanding is it's public domain. Maybe, so you guys work at Trimble? Maybe you could answer that question better than me. Yeah, so my understanding is they're there free to use. Yeah, as long as they haven't violated copyright, then you're not violating their copyright. So you can access it both from a website and straight from within SketchUp. SketchUp is a free download if you haven't used it.
Okay. Do any of these models come with normal maps at all?
They do. When you export them, the normal maps are set up, and lighting just works. If you have some problems, sometimes there's issues with the ways the faces are oriented. I haven't had a problem like that for a while. Things have gotten better, but previous iterations had face orientation issues, but lighting has worked fine for me since then. And I've had more luck with the internal exporter. PlayUp has had more issues with the face direction stuff than the internal exporter has had for me. So, all right, if that's everything, let me show you that. Let me show you my big pile of links again. If you weren't able to take notes, I wrote an article about this for Gamma Sutra. So if you search Gamma Sutra for Google Warehouse, you should be able to find my article and see a little extra information. And here's a big pile of ways to get in touch with me. And I'd appreciate it if you all checked out Energy Hook and took a look and maybe even got involved in the alpha. It's an alpha. You can give it a try and give me feedback. Thank you.